Can you hear me?
Test.
Well, there's water for you in case you're...
My throat's fucked if you're trying to imply that.
Your voice.
Yeah, my voice. I'll be okay. I'm actually okay.
Just been on the couch for so long, you get a little bit of dirt, and it's like...
Is this going to get, like... This is getting put out?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll watch what I say now. All right, just edit all that. Edit all that. Now I'm professional.
Oh, no, don't get boring, dude. No, we'll end it right now if it's going to be... No, it's just no. Okay,
I'll talk to my agent and we'll figure things out.
There you go. No, it's going to go with the rest of the ones that I've been sitting on for years.
Yeah, probably. I know. I shouldn't even worry. I know it's not getting out to the public, so say what I want.
Try and keep it, or you could slide the thing closer to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you have that much room there.
Is this fine?
Yeah. You could hear, you know how you kind of hear the voice in your voice, bass in your voice.
Yeah, it sounds fine, I think
it sounds good. Tristan Lane.
Long time coming.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We've actually done this before. But it was in my gym at my house, and it wasn't recorded. And it was like 3 hours past what your typical podcast length would be, I'm sure.
Probably. Yeah, I think I almost threw up that day. That was when you were just stoked for me to try your stupid assault bike. Yeah, that thing sucked. Yeah,
it's the pain cave. So when you come into my house, if you're an athlete, we have to test your capabilities. And I will say I was impressed because there was a interval training that I like to do. Mm-hmm. And I always say, I don't care how good a shape you are, it's going to make your heart rate just spike and you're going to feel like you're throwing up. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you do it, you have to immediately do another interval training so you don't have any rest. And then you have to do a 50 calorie like max where you just go as fast as you can to 50 calories. And you did it. I was actually kind of impressed. That's one bad, but that was back when you were in really good shape. So
I was obese.
No, dude, you'd fallen off of it. So
was that?
I'm kidding.
That wasn't the same time we went for that run. Run, I was out of shape.
Okay, no, this was a different time. This was actually I was hurt. This was in 2021. You came and stayed with me for Daytona. Remember, I just got hurt. That's what it was. Yeah,
I
got hurt at the first round Orlando.
That's what it was.
Daytona.
Yep. Yeah, that was the when we looked and we were like, kind of shook our heads like, hey, you should check. And then too late, you're on the track, and then boom.
Yeah, good times.
That sucked.
Dirt bikes and injuries.
Yeah. Did you make it more than a lap? Was that second lap at least?
No, so actually it was my second practice. Okay. So it feels like it was my first lap of the whole day, but I had trained. Actually, it's a pretty shitty story. So I got to train with Tim Ferry, which was awesome. Like, it was like a dream for me because he's a Florida guy. So like for when you're a Florida kid, you look up to like a Tim Ferry, right? So I'm watching his son Evan locally, and I'm seeing Tim, and I actually, not to go off on a tangent right now, but we are talking, so I guess I can just talk about whatever, right? Okay, so I had mutual friends of Tim's, and I always wanted to train with him. And he's like the Red Dog Academy, that's what he calls his training facility or whatever. I was like trying to get my friends to reach out to him on my behalf, like, hey, would you take Tristan Lane in and let us pay you to train him, basically. And he was way too expensive. Like, his price we couldn't afford. So we kind of like we never really actually formally met each other, but I'd see him every single weekend at my local track, right? And I would try super hard to like impress him, and just, I don't know, I heard about like Hampshire, getting to train with him. I always wanted to go ride with him. And I finally, thanks to Donald Davis, who I'm sure we'll talk about, but Donald got in touch with Tim somehow and linked it all up, like made it happen basically. So I got out there and ended up training for like 3 months, something like a full boot camp, like an actual boot camp of, off the bike, on the bike, like the legit thing for Supercross. And I'm a rookie, right? Like, I'm coming in. I'd actually done, I think, 3 or 4 Supercrosses before, but still consider myself a rookie. And I go into Orlando for the East Coast portion, and I'm like fired up, ready. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to crush it. And I do my first free practice, feel good, nothing crazy, but just like was nervous. Second, my first qualifier, I'm out there. And there's a red flag over the triple. I roll the triple, and then there's a whoop section. And I just wasn't thinking. And actually at this time, whoops was like that was my thing. Like, I felt super comfortable in the whoops. And I just died, like straight up killed myself in the whoops, and ended up with a grade 3 AC joint separation and a torn rotator cuff. And knocked myself silly. So there goes my season. So that was fun.
I didn't even get to the race. Nope. The night program.
No night program. This is straight up not even the second qualifier. I'm in the first time qualifier, and I'm out. So
that one sucked. I remember that. I remember seeing, I believe your bike came in. I'm trying to recall. I think your bike came in and Sydney was at the truck. Mm-hmm. And I remember I looked and I just gave the thumbs up or thumbs down, and she just pointed thumbs down. Yeah. And I said, "What is it?" And she said his shoulder. And she's like, "I'll be right back." And then I was...
So, not to put you on blast, but I always think of this and it makes me laugh because, like, we're obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, you and I, we're tight. You're my boy. But Sydney told me, but for anyone also, Sydney's my wife, just in case they don't know. But so Sydney had a video. She's in the stands and she films me a lot of times when she comes to the races. So she's filming all my laps, right? She films me kill myself and, hurt myself. And I look up immediately into the stands to look at her, and I just give her like the throat slit gesture, I'm out, like I'm hurt, like send help, you know what I mean? And in the video, she's like, shit, like she's like screaming, you can hear her, yelling and stuff. And she got the whole thing though. I got a perfect video of me crashing. The first thing you do when you go to see her, hey, send me the video. And you had her airdrop you the video. And I'm like, that's how you know it's my good buddy. Like all he cares about is like, hey, make sure you give me the video before he comes to. Like, give me the video first. Like, let's make sure I have some good blackmail. So somewhere on your phone, you have a video of me dying, and I haven't even posted it or anything. So.
Well, to my defense, I don't post those sort of things.
I know
it's not
blackmail.
No,
blackmail.
No. Those are your demons telling you that.
Just keep it there.
No, it's just all that is. It was. Dude, we're super tuners. We overanalyze everything. We look. Yeah. I'm trying to see like, oh, it's at this part of the stroke, and he did this.
You found exactly where my shock was packing, and you found the exact whoop that I hit that did it. So I can blame my suspension tuner.
Poor guy.
It's great. Yeah,
wasn't the tire.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely wasn't the tire.
Not my Dunlops.
No, that was rough. Yeah, that was a tough one. I remember. One thing that was crappy about that, because you worked your butt off that off season, and I remember that was, we had talked a lot more going through that off season, and you not that to say that you hadn't taken stuff serious, but it was on the cusp of like really being aware of setup or at least learning more about that and paying a lot more attention to stuff.
Yeah.
And you're on it. And I remember that was a big thing with you being confident in the whoops was a big deal. And then for it to go out like immediately, it was such, well, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm crushing it in the whoops, just kill myself in the whoops.
Yeah. But and then the other thing though too is it's still, that's the reality of how it goes sometimes. And then fast forward, it's like, for a long time, like how many seasons would you or how many races or seasons would you think it took for you to like get confident in the whoops?
No joke. This season was the first time where I felt like I could blitz or jump if I needed to. You know what I mean? And in the past, it was like if I'm first practice, I might be able to blitz in my free practice, and then it's you better get a jump line going because there's nothing else coming for me. Yeah. And I worked hard on it, but it's all in between your ears. I hate to admit it, but it really is because you could have a bike that doesn't work, but if you have that mentality of like, I'm gonna bulldog through the whoops, you can find a way to get through them. I'm not saying it will always be faster. That's the problem. Is I actually have literally found through segment times that sometimes me jumping is the fastest way for me to get through the whoops if I'm not blitzing them properly, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be doing them right first. But this season, I definitely made some more gains in that direction. You look at these top guys in our sports and Supercross especially. They're good whoop riders. Like, name me a champion that can't hit a set of whoops well. You're gonna be hard pressed to find that because it's such a pivotal part of the track. And I think when you're a rookie, like even though I'm not a rookie anymore, I still consider myself green in Supercross compared to the guys I'm racing against, right? Because I'm new to Supercross, but I'm in the 450 class. Like I've been in the 450 class like pretty much the whole time, other than my first 4 races or whatever on a 250. But so the guys I'm racing against are super experienced and they're typically really good in the whoops. Whereas I feel like I would fit in better in the 250 class where, when the whoops are fresh, I can hit them really good. And then you watch the main events when they get chewed up and the 250 guys are struggling in them by the end or whatever. That's more like where I felt like I was. But this year, you're around these guys that, they'll go click into 4th gear and hit them as fast as they can make their bike go. And they're not afraid at all. But the biggest hurdle, I think, is it's the confidence to come in fast enough to know that you can maintain and just skim all the way through and not drop in any, because you check up even an inch and you will do a front flip so fast. And I've done that. Anthony has watched me do that multiple times actually. And you do it enough and it starts plaguing your brain. You start being really afraid, and then you're coming in cautious instead of just giving it the beans, you know what I mean, coming in. So it's the sport is mental, but whoops are extra mental.
Extra. It seems like Supercross as a whole.
Yes.
Like I used to think that coming into it, I mean, I never raced at a competitive level at all. Like C, if anything.
Well, I wouldn't say not a competitive level. You competitively raced. You mean at a super high level.
I lined up next to Silvera when he was like 12, and it was like his first race on a 250F.
I hope he slammed him.
No, I got roosted. He took a whole shot, and I was like second to last. Is at a fairgrounds race.
I have seen, actually, for the audience out there, I've witnessed GoPro videos of Anthony riding a two-stroke Yamaha. And I give him credit. He has aggression. All right. What he lacks in skill, he makes up for in aggro. Okay. So you don't, for a weekend warrior. Yeah. For a weekend warrior, you don't want to line up against this dude. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, dude. But no, because you look at it and you watch it on TV and then you think, I could do that. Why isn't this guy doing this? And you have this full on confidence, right? Mm-hmm. And then you do a track walk.
Yeah.
And then it's like
tumbling.
How do you go from there to there? You know, and then it's, what if you come up an inch short? Mm-hmm. And then do a track walk after the race, after the main, after the 450 main. Like, I that's the one thing I like. I have so many pictures on my phone of just, because I always want to look at the dirt and see how it deteriorates and what's going on in the whoops. Like, there's stuff that you get to see. Take a guy like Tomac, mm-hmm. and like Tampa one year, they had a rhythm section. It was a sand section, but it was like a rhythm.
Yeah, before the finish line. Was it 2020 when Hill was killing?
No. It was the year, I think, the next year that we went to Tampa after that.
Okay.
There was a big rhythm section, but it was sand, and he was jumping.
Oh yeah,
almost
that was
all
my
of
first
it.
Supercross.
Yeah, he was jumping almost the whole section. Yes, and it was in.
Sorry,
I want to say it was the second qualifying that he would jump the whole section. It was like during the day. I remember walking the track with Brock Glover and Roger DeCoster and Rio, and we stood at the takeoff. And then Brock's telling us where Eli was jumping. And then I remember Roger being like, right there. And then Brock's like, no, there. And we all looked at each other like, how? You know, and there's stuff like that every week. And you see, it's just amazing. Like, TV doesn't do justice.
Yeah.
And it's not so much like the distance. It's more so, it's the overall risk if you make a mistake. And then the conditions that they're being done and how many times in the road they're being done. So like if you look at a whoop section at the end of a night, and it's got a big old fat rut right through the middle of it, and guys either roll through it smoothly right in the middle, or a guy will catch a knobby and start, huck-a-bucking side to side.
Oh, yeah.
Other guys will blitz, like Barsh will go blitz all the way next to the tough blocks,
like Andy this year.
Yeah, you get stuff like that, and you just and you piece it together, and like you walk on it and you look, and you just think to yourself like, where would I go? Mm-hmm. And none of it looks good, and so that's like, even the guys, like when if you're getting in the night show and then if you're making a main and doing all the laps, not DNF, and you're just staying off the ground and doing all of it, like, that's incredible.
It's you see some crazy stuff. Those tracks are so rough, it's hard to ride them. Like, it's hard to just get a flow going. So when I watch the Tomacs or the Sextons, the guys that are at that elite level and they're in the top 3, I would say, they're riding a part of the track that I almost don't see sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost hard to see what they see, and it's amazing. And that's where I think you can learn from experience. Like, honestly, people, you hate getting lapped, right? But getting lapped sometimes will teach you. When you watch them go by, you're like, whoa.
I was just going to ask you that, because like there's times where we'll get together between the sessions, mm-hmm. and it's like, hey, we noticed this or that, and we kind of bounce ideas. But with you, when you're behind a guy that's a lot faster, do you try and pace it, or do you try and, you know, see where they're going, or what's going, like take something from it, or follow through, or maybe you're unsure about a section and then you know that you're confident they're going to hit it, and so you follow them through it, or anything like that?
Yeah, there's a couple things that stand out in my head with that. Like, so when it comes to doing like fast laps, a lot of times when I'm in the A practice, I will pick a guy that is fast enough where they're definitely faster than me, but it's attainable. So like there was a lot of times where, like, I'm trying to think of somebody, but like a Dean Wilson, for example, where I'd pull in behind Dean and he's going faster than me, but I can latch onto him and there's a good chunk of the track that I'm right there. So I'm able to see every single line he's doing, and I'm able to just kind of like latch onto that pace. Because a lot of times it's an intensity, right? Like you're doing the same obstacles, right? Like there's times I'll do the same sequence rhythm, same corner, same line, whatever, but he's racing it. He's doing the little things faster, right? So when you physically see that in front of you, I'm a visual guy, so I feel like it helps me to just like be right there and adopt that right then on the spot. But another example would be in one of the qualifiers, like I think it was Denver. I remember I did actually Brock Glover, shout out to Dunlop. He took me under his wing and he was helping me with some lines, and we were kind of going back and forth on which rhythm was fastest. And there was like a step on, step off, triple, 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 or you go like over the table, triple, 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 right? And I went step on, step off, triple, and then Sexton was right behind me, like literally directly behind me, and went over. And Sydney, my wife, actually filmed the whole thing, which was cool. But we were able to see, like, instead of using like Dartfish or Lit Pro, we actually had like a first-hand view of what was faster. And he did the other rhythm, and I'm going as fast as I can, like scrubbing through it, and he's just soaking up this rhythm to the right of me, and it was noticeably faster. Like, not even the way he was doing it, but just you could just tell the way the sequence was faster and the way he was doing it was faster. So it solved all that, but it kind of made me realize, like, just seeing that and feeling it, like me feeling him coming up on me when I'm going as fast as I can, pushing through a rhythm I thought was fast. You can learn in the moment, and I think that getting a little bit, having a better head on my shoulders as I get better with racing is learning to be like, okay, I need to make adjustments mid-practice, mid-moto, mid-main, whatever. Don't just do the same thing all day and think it's going to be fast, because especially in Supercross, you're splitting hairs. Outdoors, you can make up a lot with just fitness, I think, even if you're lacking some stuff on the track. But obviously, it's a different level when you're talking about, you know, trying to win a race. I can't even imagine. Those guys are, I mean, every single part of the track matters. So if I can learn even a 1% gain in a section, it's worth it for me. So
I think staying healthy to be able to learn all that and apply it is a big thing too. Yes. Because I think when you end up on the ground, you have to sit on the sideline. Mm-hmm. You can study all you want, and then you're not able to do anything with it. Yep. You know, and then you get the next opportunity, then now you have all this extra stuff in your head. Exactly. You know, you lose your confidence too. Yeah, and then not being able to, your bandwidth is all taken up. You know, the more seat time you get out there and not going through the motion, but doing it, then it's not going to be, it's just like you were saying, Pace and Dean. Yeah. You know, and then you learn, okay, this intensity works, you know, or I could do this, and then it doesn't always take somebody like that to have to pace off of it. It just kind of becomes a new normal. Or at least in road racing, it was like that. I always remember, like I would go through a section, what I thought was pretty fast, and then a guy would carry like maybe 1 or 2 mile an hour more than me. Yeah, just kind of settle in a little bit more gracefully. And road race is really easy because the track is the same every lap. You just go a little bit more, and then you start feeling the tires go a little bit. You just kind of flirt with that little boundaries real quick. Yeah, but you learn where it's at, you know, or you learn like if you're running stock rear sets, which are the foot pegs. Mm-hmm. If you're running stock, you could scrape those before the bike will go. Oh, geez. But most of the time, like, people lose the bike before they get there. And what happens is just like abrupt input. Okay. Right? So if the track is pretty smooth, you got a smooth line. If you're real gingerly on your throttle input and your controls and everything, you can get down to your foot peg and it'll just you'll feel it. It'll kiss. And that's about all you get. That's about what most tires will let you have. So it's a little cheat code right there. That's cool. And depending too, like your foot position, a lot of times people are they ride on their arches. So if you're more on your tippy toes, then you're gonna probably hit your foot peg first. But you can get sometimes if your toe's not positioned right, you'll absolutely scrape your toe, and there's little sliders on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, it feels like when you play Operation and you hit the little buzzer on the edge.
Yeah.
You feel it like immediately.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, like that's about all.
That'll pucker you up.
No, it's just about that's about where we're gonna go. You know what I mean? You're not gonna
moss.
go. Yeah, you don't need to go much further than that. You know, God forbid you hit a bump or something.
Oh, jeez. I would definitely be in trouble.
Yeah. But anyways, so back to that assault bike. That sucked. Big time.
Yeah, it's like a rite of passage. I'm like, hey, Anthony, like, here you're enjoying yourself. You're on, you're going to work the next day.
Yeah.
I'm just in miserable mode, depression state, like hurt, injured, not able to do anything. Here, hop on my Rogue Echo and let me see how tough you are.
You hit that. I think you did that with one arm.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think your shoulder. I remember. Yeah.
I did.
You had your shoulder.
Honestly, for anyone that doesn't know, like an assault bike, you're having a propelled blade, like a fan, essentially, that you're resisting as you pedal, right? So it's creating a big resistance, and it's like the harder you pedal, it'll match your input or output, whatever you want to call it. And it's hard, super hard, but it just gets you it'll toast you if you go in a sprint, but more of an interval, right?
Anybody that's needing like an interval training.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the purpose is to blow your lungs out.
Exactly.
You're trying to get there the most effective way they can. I used to tell people when we would train on bicycles, this for doing road racing, like cycling, everybody would want to do these sprint intervals on the bike, which is good. Like you work on your fast twitches, a bunch of stuff about that. But if you're trying to blow your lungs out and you hit a rowing machine and you're in cycling shape, your little T-Rex arms, they're so inefficient.
Yeah.
And so if you're just trying to work on your heart rate and get it spiked and everything, like that helps a lot. As a little secret weapon.
Yes.
Probably shouldn't even be talking about that right now.
No.
That's a sauce.
It is. But
it helps.
Is. Yeah, no,
That's
I agree.
why the Rogue
I
bike's
found
for
that for Supercross, the Rogue was great. It really helped me. Outdoors, I'm sure it's good for everything, but it really seemed like in Supercross, because you're holding your breath a lot.
Yeah.
You're feeling that. It's funny. A heat race, for example, feels a lot like riding that Rogue Echo when you're on like that last part of the interval and your heart rate's maxed. It has that feeling of uncomfortable where you're like, I'm getting cramped, I can't breathe, my heart rate's pounding. That's kind of the feeling I feel like, at least I get, where I'm not comfortable in the heat. I'm always just like, pushing every bit I have, and it's just that all out sprint. So good training tool for sure. I mean, the bicycle, you can get a lot of road work done just doing like base stuff, but I feel like when you do an interval bike, yeah. Why are we talking about interval bikes so much? These things are horrible.
I don't know, dude. So you've been
now you got me like haunted thinking about them. Jeez. I don't want to mess with that thing. I'm on vacation, Anthony.
I know. That's a hard lift. What are you thinking on the line?
For a race?
Yeah.
I'm thinking... Well,
say heat
a lot
race.
of things. Okay,
so
that's a good point, because every race is a little different. But for a heat race, I'm a guy, being realistic, I'm typically always in that bubble of being on the main, right? Like a lot of times, at least in the past, hopefully I can change that, but I'm always a guy that is going to be 9th, 10th, 11th, right in that range, right? Like I always feel like I come either right up short or I'll be in the main. Like typically it's really hard, but I've gotten in more on LCQs than I have in heats. I've only gotten in on 3 heat races, I want to say. But I always finish. I've had like so many 10th place finishes, for example.
And a lot
where
of
I'm like
fifth, too.
1 and 5ths in LCQ, like missed them barely. So it's a lot of pressure in the heats, because your day is significantly better when you go straight to the heat. It's the best feeling, because you actually prepare, your body's able to recover. You're not going from an LCQ where you're maxed out and then you got to go hop into a 25, not even a 20, 30 lap main event sometimes, depending on how short the track is. But yeah, as far as what I'm thinking, I have probably normal anxieties, right? Like everyone does on the gate. I don't really care who you are. I'm sure they're all telling themselves some negative thoughts too, but I would say every single bad thing that could happen to you is going through my brain right before the gate drops. And then I have a moment of solitude where I think the crowd goes crazy. You start hearing the car goes sideways. And it was the same way when I did my first dirt bike race. I'll never forget it. The gate was up and the card was up, and I was freaking out and panicking, and I had all these butterflies. And the second the gate dropped, it all went away. I'll never forget that. It just it was gone. I just felt totally fine. I was just racing. That's still the same to this day for me. So my most happy is when I'm actually racing.
Yeah.
Everything else is a bunch of bullshit. That's how I feel about it. Like, I hate it. Like, I don't like being in staging. I don't like thinking about going to my qualifying. I don't like going up to the main event. I don't like any of that. I don't like the small talk in between. All that stuff stresses me out. But it's because I'm just so focused. And so to answer your question, I'm thinking about lines. I'm thinking about things that I'm afraid are going to happen, right? But I'm trying to steer my brain in a better direction. But yeah, I'd love to lie to you and be like, oh man, I'm just confident. Like nothing's going through my head, but just, I'm going to kill it. And instead it's all the worries, right? But as I've seasoned a little bit, I have gotten better at calming myself down, because I truly believe that you need to be nervous. If you're not nervous, I don't think you're going to perform to your potential, because I've had some of my best reaction times on starts, for example, or even just in races, my intensity, when I'm really like sharp, but anxiously sharp, if that makes sense. You're so nervous that you're like, at any moment, if that gate flinches, I'm going to just launch and just go. And then you just react, basically. On the other hand, I've been so calm on the gate before. I get a horrible start, have one of the worst races of my life, even though I'm like, cool as a cucumber. So channeling that is super important. Finding out what makes you tick is big. And another thing I think about too is I have a ritual. So a lot of people are big on the routines. I'm sure you've seen like superstitions of guys. Like I think of like the Vince Freezies, like knocking their handlebars, 50 times the left.
Passing a Cajun spirit on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You think Ken Roxon. I think about him doing his pump up. I think of Jet Lawrence doing his, with his arms. And like everyone's got their thing.
What's
right?
yours?
I would say mine. I can't give out my secrets. For my competition out there. No, I'm kidding. I do a ton of warm up, right? Like I'm a cold-blooded guy. Like I'm like trying to get as loose as I can on the gate.
Yeah.
Jumping jacks right before the race, right? Hop on the bike, shake my arms out. I'm really big on like trying to get the arm pump out, because for me, if I don't shake my arms and do all sorts of like warm ups, I feel like I just start getting tighter and tighter and tighter before the gate drops. So yeah, you'll catch me, doing all sorts of nonsense on the gate, just trying to loosen up. And then I have some things. I'm going to keep this to myself. I don't need to share this on the podcast. I do say some things in my head, like consistently, the same things over and over. And I never change it. I always say the same phrases, little things that just kind of pump me up and get me in a good perspective. But I think everyone's got their thing. You know what I mean? And this is a really interesting topic for me, because I would love to know what all the top riders in our sport, what their thing is, what their routine is. Because think about it. I'm talking about I'm trying to earn my spot in these main events. I'm trying to get my best finishes. But in reality, if I'm scoring points and I'm in the mains, that's good for me as a privateer, right? Like I'm trying to progress and get better. But I'm talking about guys that they're on the gate, they're battling for a championship. Like if they have a bad night, they're going to lose their championship, which is like, a big bummer for their team themselves. I would love to know if they're superstitious as well, and what their thoughts are, what their ritual is. Do they have something they live and die by? That way they can maintain, consistency each race. Because I feel like if you go to the gate and you do something different each weekend, you're going to get different results. So
I bet a lot of them do. I have to. Valentino Rossi does.
I know.
Yeah. I always got to gauge it off of that. Huh? He does it.
The doctor.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Big time. I think, I would say there's probably a couple that
Plessinger seems like the type that just doesn't, he's just loose. He's just probably like taking it as it comes. But I would guess a guy like Chase or Jet, they probably have certain things. Like the Lawrence brothers seem like they're pretty locked in. Like they've got something they do. They look the same to me every time I see them on the gate. Like they've got like a thing they're doing that just...
I think Australians are built a little differently, though. Like think of any great Australian champion.
Yeah,
they're always gnarly and rad. Yeah. I think it's hard to gauge stuff off of it. They're like almost an anomaly. Yeah, when you think about it, because you got Lawrence brothers right now. That's like the current dudes. In road racing, you had Matt Mladen, Casey Stoner, Mick Doolan. Yep. Those are all hammerheads, all business, you know what I mean?
A Chad Reed out there.
Chad Reed.
Just a ruthless monster.
Yeah, but I just feel like they're just like, oh, mate, like they're just ready to get after it.
Well, again, I've realized this too, is everyone's perspective is different, right?
Maybe that's got to be a cultural thing. No, maybe I think it is. I might be completely off the mark, but like, no. I don't think if I was going to have psychological warfare with anybody, I don't think it would work on an Australian.
No, I agree.
think they would just be like,
no,
whatever.
I think a lot of it is how you're raised. I think a lot of the way you look at life it can affect that stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. The guy that's on the gate that has nothing to lose.
Dangerous.
Nothing to lose is dangerous.
Yeah.
The people that are on the gate they feel like they have everything to lose,
That's
and
pressure.
they're riding with they're letting that weight be on their shoulders. You're gonna see a different reaction, the way they handle the pressure, the way they handle a pass, the way if someone block passes them, it could crumble them, right? Versus, like you mentioned, those tough guys that are gonna just freaking eat pressure and just thrive on it. They're gonna get block passed, and it's only gonna make it's like you shouldn't have done that because now I'm gonna be even better. Like I think of a Chad Reed. Chad Reed sticks out to me like you never know what you're gonna get out of that guy. He could be 5th in practice and be 5 seconds off of the first place guy, and he's probably going to still win the main event or has at least a legitimate chance to, no matter what happens. So, yeah.
What's your first memory of getting on a motorcycle?
I love this question.
Yeah.
You're hitting a soft spot right now. This is the core of me as I think about this stuff. Like, I was 8 years old. I love, actually, can I start from the top? Can I start from the very top?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you a little background here. So I was obsessed with bicycles, 2 wheels my whole life, right? Like as soon as I could get the training wheels off my bicycle and just start riding at like 2 years old, whatever, I'm like just running into fences. Like my dad's sending me straight down the driveway. I'm eating it, crashing, hurting myself. I remember a lot of that from a young age. So it kind of makes sense that I like race motorcycles for a living. It's like, no wonder I'm on 2 wheels because my whole life, that's all I cared about was 2 wheels. Then 4-wheelers were the only I didn't know what a dirt bike was. I just I saw motorcycles, right? My neighbor had a 4-wheeler. I'm like, okay, I want to ride a 4-wheeler. My dad got my sister and I one, and I was like, okay, this is cool, this is fun. And then my neighbor, my best friend Jacob Otto, shout out Jacob, he got a dirt bike, and it forever changed my life because I was so jealous. I was so envious of his dirt bike.
Do you know what dirt bike it was?
It was probably I'm gonna guess a 2000 Suzuki 125, but not like a 2-stroke 125, a 4-stroke like the 125L or whatever, the little like trail bikes.
Like
yes,
DRZ,
yes,
yeah.
DRZ 125, and it was not even a cool bike, but it had a clutch. And I said, my guy's got a clutch on his bike, and I have a 4-wheeler that looks like it came straight. It was bought at Pet Boys. It's a 90cc, Pet Boys with Polaris, blah blah blah, and not even actually, it was like a Chinese special, I think, but. I was so proud of just having something that I could. It was freedom. So not to jump the gun, I'm getting so excited. Like I said, this is it's such a cool moment for me. It's defining. It really is defining who I am as dirt bikes. But
come in closer to this thing too.
So I get this bike. I beg. No, so I'm jumping. I ride 4-wheelers. I beg for a dirt bike. I'm in school. And I remember, actually, my mom still has all these saved, but they ask you around Christmas time when you're in like elementary school, what do you want for Christmas? Like, what is your Christmas list, right? I believe in Santa at this point. Kids out there, if there's any young kids, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spoil it, but he's not real. Oh, so I'm just writing a list as long as the paper would let me, and it just says, I want a dirt bike. I want a dirt bike. I want a dirt bike. And I wanted for some reason, I guess I knew I wanted a 110. A KLX 110 was all I wanted. And I thought a Kawasaki was so cool. And I wanted a 110. So my birthday is December 24th, Christmas Eve, baby. I come out and I would wake up at 5 a.m. to go and sneak and go look and see like what we got, right? I'm such a spoiled kid. I'm over here bragging about getting a dirt bike. I was very fortunate to be able to have that opportunity, right? I see a KLX 110 sitting in my living room and I'm losing my marbles. Like I've never felt that type of love other than maybe meeting my wife or something, but like no joke, the most intense, like just, I don't know, like truly love at first sight. I was so proud of it. I knew as soon as I saw it, that's my dirt bike. I knew that like Santa had brought me a dirt bike. Funny backstory. It was dirty. It was super dirty. It had dirt all over it. And I came to find out later on in life that my dad was test riding it in the mud outside. He didn't clean it. He just left it dirty and just parked it in the front. He just didn't care. Yeah, if you know my dad, guys, it all makes sense.
1,000%. He literally rode the crap.
Just was wheeling it around outside in the mud, like Florida rain, like middle of a hurricane probably. Just throw it inside, like park it. It's fine.
That's awesome.
And I didn't care. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But yeah, so I had freedom when I was on a dirt bike. I was a like super shy kid, and I didn't do. I mean, I played sports and like typical sports, basketball, like some football, whatever. I did normal things, but riding a dirt bike, I felt like I was different, and it's such a cheesy thing to say because I feel like everyone says this, but it's true. I felt like I could do anything when I was on a dirt bike. When I had a helmet on, it was like an alter ego almost. Like I could just be by myself, like free. I would just go out in our yard and I would just ride the same little loop, like probably 10,000 times until my bike ran out of gas. And I would crash the thing into fences. I was just hurting myself. Man, I didn't know what I was doing. No one taught me how to ride. I didn't one time have my dad say like, okay, this is how you like, you know, hop on it and shift. I just like hopped on it. I just remember like, I would just hop on, be like, no, I got it. And I'd put in gear and just like crash. Like I didn't want to have someone teach me. I was so excited. I just wanted to like get my hands on it myself and learn. Like it was very odd now that I look back on it, because I would never let my kid ride a dirt bike without like instructing them how to ride. But you know, Deland, Florida, we're just built different. So, but I'd say that was the first time I remember having that feeling of like, I'm riding a dirt bike and the freedom of it. And then it's funny because all these years later, I still have a form of like therapy I get from riding a motorcycle. It's very therapeutic for me, but also it's like that freedom of like learning new skills now on the bike, right? Because when I first started at 8, obviously, I'm just trying to stay on 2 wheels and not fall. Now when I ride a motorcycle, I'm able to do things that are really unique. Like I can do more advanced skills on a track that I never could have ever dreamed of doing when I was a kid. And it makes it fun because, you know, now, like if you just hit, when you were younger, like hitting a 3-foot jump felt like I just caught the biggest error of all time. Now it's like you hit a 120-foot jump and it's not even a big deal. It's like, it doesn't even feel that hard. But you can find ways to like improve your riding, and that's what's kept me really in it. But, you know, the love of first sight of a dirt bike, I mean, there's really nothing that beats it.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
It gets me pumped up. Like I'm pumped up just thinking about this right now.
Dude, so I just had the same conversation with my wife. I was packing my stuff up, getting ready to come out here, and then there's a movie that I've been wanting to watch, and it was the movie that started the whole thing for me. That made me want a motorcycle. Like I wanted to ride a motorcycle straight up.
What's the movie? What's it called?
Terminator 2.
Oh, no way.
I swear.
Because of John
Connor.
John Connor on the movie. Yeah, okay, that's a sweet scene. You're right.
People don't realize, though, the main antagonist and the 2 protagonists in that movie, they all ride motorcycles. So you have the beginning of it. It starts off with Arnold just teleporting in. He's ain't got no clothes on.
Naked, just jacked.
Goes in, just flexing. Just flexing. And then he goes, stands up. And what people, I'm trying to remember back, because I was 4 when that movie came out. And the Terminator 1, it was a little bit darker, and it was a real gritty movie and gory for the time, everything. Like it holds up pretty good. It was gnarly. And he was a monster, right? He was a Terminator, and he's coming in, killing everything. Just not a good dude. Like he's evil and a killing machine. So the opening scene is him just popping up, and so you see it's like, oh, this mean dude. And he goes into that biker bar. He goes like the most gangster stuff ever. Walks in naked, sizes everybody up, finds a match, asks him for his clothes, his boots, and his bike. And the guy's like, hey, what the hell? And he tells him get out of there. Burns a cigarette on it or cigar on him and everything. Yeah. Epic fight scene. Is just total badass 90s action. Just like, Then he walks, it changes the scene, and he's walking out of the bar, and he's got all the guys' gear on, right? And then Bad to the Bone starts playing by George Thorogood.
I remember this scene.
That was my anthem. My dad used to play that for me when ever since I was born, my dad would play that for me. He's like, this song's about you. Mm-hmm. I remember for Halloween, they dressed me up, they painted my face like a skull, and they're like, I was like, what am I going to be? And they're like, you're bad to the bone. And I walked around going trick-or-treating, telling everybody, I would go door to door, I'm bad to the bone.
That is so good.
That's how ingrained it was, right? So that was like my anthem. And he's walking down, and then he takes a Harley, takes off on that. Then John Connor's over here hacking ATMs and going and cashing in for quarters, going to arcades, riding around on this little XR. Cool. And it sounds like it sounds like McGrath's freaking 2-stroke.
Championship winning 2-stroke.
You know, and he's ripping around in that. The
long hair, don't care.
Yeah. And then the T1000 comes, and And later in the movie, he's got that cop bike that he rides up and down the stairs and everything. Like the whole movie was just badass with motorcycles. And to me,
good point. I've never thought of that. You're right. It does have a big influence on motorcycles.
And so then those were the toys I had, and I remember I had a bunch of toys, like Terminator toys, and they had the little John Connor dirt bike, and that was my favorite thing. I always wanted to get into it. My parents never let me anywhere near it. Like straight up, they're like, nah. And
you're talking about dirt bikes,
motorcycles in general.
Yeah.
So I just stayed on bicycles. And I just beat the hell out of them, you know. And they're little Walmart bikes, and I mean, my parents. I was always hooked up with a bike from the time I was about 4. Yeah, fourth birthday, and then and I loved it, and I got into dirt jumps and BMX and stuff like that, and always wanted it, but never could get my hands on it. And then fast forward to 18, 19 years old, I just went all in and got a GSXR 750.
That's a good first
yeah, that's what the salesman told me, dude. He's like, well, you're going to grow out of that 600 right there. You need one of these. And then, he told my dad it'll help me build credit. My dad was... Right. Yeah, you need credit.
Yeah, okay, credit's important.
Yeah.
It'll also help you build your hospital bills too if you don't know how to ride it properly, but you figured it out. So.
Knock on wood, I stayed out of the hospital, at least for the most part.
Yeah.
Know? But yeah, it was, that's where it came from. But anyways, I made Raquel watch that.
That's awesome.
It was my origin story.
Did she receive it the same way that you do, or was it a girl version where she's like,
no, it was impressive to her because the movie holds up pretty good. It does. Everybody should watch that movie. Like if you haven't seen it in a while, like it holds up really good, and especially today with all the crap going on with AI, like it almost kind of
trippy to think about.
Yeah, it's tough.
John Connor in that movie was so rad. There's a scene. This I just had a flashback. There's a scene where they're like going through downtown somewhere, and they're like on the like these pavement ditches and gullies, I don't know what we call it. And he like hops up and he's like jumping through fences and crap. Like he's just, you know what I mean? Like he's racing around on the top. I just thought that was so cool. I still can see that in my head of that scene. It was really neat. I'll have to watch it back.
Arnold comes down. Arnold jumps off of like this big old cement platform down into the ditch. So I was watching that, and then we're laughing. We were playing it back frame by frame. And
of course you were.
No, this is why. Because I go and I was like, dude, look at the stunt double. Because I never picked up on it, right? And so I look and you could tell like it's a guy wearing a mask with it's for sure not Arnold, right? And then you look at John Connor, he's supposed to be like this 10-year-old kid, and it's a grown ass guy and dressed like a kid. And he's way bigger than the bike, and then it like changes camera angles, but Cal goes, she's like, no, that's not him, and like, or she's telling me that's not a stunt double. I was like, that is. Look, like if you look and you go from one frame to the other, like you could see it go from stunt guy to Arnold, right? I was like, dude, for all we know, like this is what 92. I was like, that could be Glover with a wig on
for sure, for sure.
So I bring it up to Brock today, and he's like, no, my buddy plays Arnold.
Oh, makes sense.
Dude goes into this whole long story. I'm gonna save it for if I ever get to talk to him on here.
That's actually pretty great.
But yeah, so he knows the guy that does all the stunt doubling for him.
That's
it's
really cool,
pretty
actually.
Rad. But yeah, it has
good movie. Everyone go check it out.
Yeah, that was a good one. What you been up to since Supercross? You remember you had a little mischief and
yeah, I've had a lot of stuff happen actually since Supercross. So I guess starting from the top, first thing I did after Supercross was I was trying to find a ride for outdoors, and I had an opportunity to come up to ride a Kawasaki, and it didn't work out in the long run, but I did get to race the first outdoor at Fox Raceway, which was cool. Haven't rode a Kawasaki in a long time. It was fun to just ride a different bike and just have an opportunity to race, but it wasn't in the cards, wasn't meant to be, kind of fell apart. But, I took it as a sign of like, okay, my body got beat up pretty good from Supercross. And you never get a chance to fully heal when you're in the thick of the season, right? And then the second I was injured, all I was worrying about was getting back to the next round, not skipping a bunch of races, right? So I didn't give myself proper healing, I would say. If I, in a perfect world, obviously would have probably just not raced the rest of Supercross. Looking back, I'm glad I did, though, because I had my best results. But I did have an opportunity, actually, after I'd healed up a little bit after the first outdoor, to go race in Brazil, which was cool. I went and did a Supercross or Arena Cross in Brazil, which was awesome. had a great time doing that. Got to ride the new platform KTM, which was neat because that's the bike it's looking like I'm going to be on for next year, which is cool.
What was it like down in Brazil?
It's pretty cool. I mean, being totally frank, it's a dangerous place. It's very dangerous. I mean, it's like, I'd say I've been to South America and raced before. I've raced in other countries other than that too, but it's the most dangerous place I've ever been to for sure. Like in the sense of, if I'm just a Caucasian male, just chilling English guy from United States. If you are walking down the street and you're speaking English and you're alone, I mean, there's an actual chance that someone's going to come up and stab you or rob you. Like, and I'm not trying to put negative things out there, but this is people that I know that were in Brazil telling me this. Like, it's a beautiful place, but I think that within that beauty, there's a lot of really severe crime history there, and there's a lot of just division, I guess, is what I felt. But us looking past all that stuff absolutely was awesome, and I just wish I could have explored more. It's like almost like such a unique place that I wish I could go to the jungle. I want to go see like the freaking all aspects of it. Yeah. And I felt like I was confined to my hotel because every single person I talked to was being serious when they told me, like, please do not leave your hotel.
Were these locals telling you that?
Locals telling me. I actually had a Ramler, shout out Ramler Alves, a buddy of mine who was racing as well. He's from Brazil. Yeah. He actually lives in the States, but he obviously races in Brazil as well. He told me, he's like, no, man, like, I'm not trying to scare you. He's like, but for real, like, don't go outside. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I already went outside. You know what I mean? Donald, my mechanic, we walked around the first day we got there, against obviously the advice of other people. But he's like, it's not that you're going to just, someone's going to come up and like shoot you, but they will size you up if they hear you speaking English, and they will come up and they will rob you or stab you, or like something will happen. And he's like, you just trust me. Like, don't, it's not worth it. Like, just don't do it. Which is, like I said, it's a bummer to hear that. But
I would imagine that's probably like depending on the area too.
Yeah,
just like definitely. Anything, it's like anything here in the States. Yes. Yeah.
But the thing was, where we were in Sao Paulo, the capital there, obviously I think that, like, you know, like anywhere, most capitals are very populated, right? I think it was a very dense area with a lot of people. And, you know, it's a lot of places in South America that I've been, I've noticed they're very rich or very poor. There's not a middle class, right? So that's something that I think is a big part of it as well. Yes, big discrepancy. Let me think of something else in Brazil that stands out. Definitely the food was rad. Really good food. I know you're a big food guy. It was cool. Some of the best steaks I've ever had, meat in my life, which was awesome. The racing was awesome. The coreness, if that's not a word, but the overall vibes of the track. Enthusiasm of the racing was really, really high, top notch. I met amazing people. And obviously, one of the cool things, every time you race internationally as an American, you're a superstar. Like, they look at you like you race AMA Supercross on TV, and and that was cool. Like, for me, it was really neat to be able to, like, be a highlight of the event versus when you're in the stage, you know, the highlights are the Eli Tomacs and the Chase Sextons, not the Tristan Lanes, right? I'm just on the gate, which is, I'm honored to be racing them, but it's really cool to be able to go over there and compete against guys that are no joke, guys you've never heard of that rip. And, you know, it was humbling. I went over there with Justin Starling, who's a fellow American, and who else came? Oh, Tyler Bowers was out there. Which was cool. Tyler's a good dude. Never really talked to him before then, which was cool.
He's rad.
Yeah, he's really rad.
Super rad.
Good guy. We had a great time. I mean, the Americans, we all like clung together the whole time, but I mean, the promoter was awesome. They took really good care of us. And I mean, we had a driver everywhere we went, to the track, to the hotel, to get food. Like, they had a full-on personal driver for us. And I mean, we got like the full red carpet treatment, which was pretty cool. But, you know, that was, I'm trying to think of when that was. I think it was July, possibly, early July. I did that race. And then after that, I actually had LASIK eye surgery.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
How's that? Cool. Okay. How did it work? Now, how old are you?
25.
25. So you're still technically young to do that. Mm-hmm. How did it go? How did you feel? Like, how was the whole thing?
Yeah, it was life-changing, man. Seriously. I mean, for anyone out there that has, you know, bad eyesight, you know, you can feel my struggles, but being a dirt bike racer and having to wear contacts is no joke. It's tough. I've had a lot of races where my contacts have dried up and they've fallen out of my eyes, or, you know, I've been on the gate I remember at a Supercross this year, I'm getting ready for the heat and I'm in the tunnel, and it was like my eyes just dried up. Like, I don't know what happened, but just like my contact started drying up. I had my contact fall out, and I had to take my glove off, put it back in my eye, and it's all like, irritated and messed up, and I couldn't see the whole race very well. And I'm like, I'm just over it, you know what I mean? And it just comes back to I've heard my mom's gotten a LASIK eye surgery. My dad's had LASIK. I've known some, Donald, my mechanic, has had LASIK. They all just tell me it's the best thing that they've ever done, the best investment. And then I finally bit the bullet and made it happen, and it really is great. I don't know what else to say. I see great. I see great.
No, now are you able to focus close and focus far away, or is it just?
Yeah.
Kinda...
So I will say, like, up close, it's hard to explain, but my eyesight is so sharp now that it's actually almost hard to read up close sometimes, because I almost feel like I struggle, like if I'm on a computer and I'm doing emails or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost hard for me to like, it almost looks a little bit blurry, even though it's not. It's just my vision is so dialed in far away, and it's so sharp. I actually have 2015 vision now, which is better than perfect, which I don't even know how it's possible, but they do like the eye test pre and post of your surgery. And it's amazing. Like I said, I can see so far. It's pretty mind-blowing. But yeah, for anyone out there that's on the fence, definitely do it. You will not regret it.
I'm on the fence big time on that one.
Are you a contact guy?
Bro.
I forget.
I could show you my glasses. They're like freaking...
Thick girls.
Dude, I got little divots in my nose from when I wear them. Yeah. I went all in, too. I got aviator frames for them. It's like the heaviest.
Nice.
They're like a pound. They're huge. But yeah, I always get jacked with for them. But no, they're my eyesight went to shit pretty quick.
Yeah.
Once I hit my mid-20s, I would say, and just deteriorate. I've been up in there about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the simplest surgeries I've ever had.
Yeah, I remember you sent me a video of it, and it was like,
it's easy. Put it this way,
it was like freaking Slappy's laying there all.
Happy. When they willingly will let you take a video of the surgery, it's not a big deal, because I promise you, there's, for lawsuit legality reasons, there's a lot of surgeries that they're not letting you film. You know what I mean? And my mom sat out there and just filmed the whole thing. And it's like a big fishbowl that you're watching the surgery from, and she just sat outside and just could take a video of the screen, the monitor, and they go in there and they cut a flap of your cornea, and then they go in there and they literally burn, like they somehow, I don't know, correct the cornea with a laser. And it's amazing. It's one of the coolest things when you watch the surgery back. It's like, how is that even? Who is the first one that did this? That's what I want to know.
Like, hey, I want to try this.
Who tested this on another human? That's horrible. You know what I mean? You smell your eyelid flesh as they're doing it, burning. It's trippy, but it's done so quick. And immediately I could see. It was foggy, but I could tell it was clear. I'm like, wow, I can see. And then the first night was kind of brutal. Like the most itchy eyes I've ever had in my life, and they gave you a bunch of special drops to be on for a few weeks. But fast forward now, like I said, I'm truly grateful that I got that done, and I'm glad I did it in the off season. It was either right before Brazil or right after Brazil. It might have been actually right before Brazil.
I think it was before.
It was actually because I had strict instructions not to do anything physical for 2 weeks, and I raced in Brazil Supercross a week after, 7 days after the surgery. That's what it was.
That's typical T Lane right there.
Yeah, I don't like to follow rules, and it's not that I don't like to. It's I have a severe struggle.
No, it's not rules. You follow all the rules. The thing is, you don't follow professional advice, bro.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I don't like to listen to doctors. When you live in a hospital your whole life,
doesn't matter if it's a tire doctor, a suspension doctor, motor doctor.
I'm what they would call a skeptical man. I'm skeptical. I like to do my research. Yeah, I have trust issues, big trust issues.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but after Brazil though, and after the eye surgery, nothing really. I guess this podcast, I can just let it all out, right? Fast forward to today, we're at Ironman, and I had to fill in Anthony on some info, but I had a super big crash in Supercross. I hit a false neutral over a triple, hurt my ankle. Sprained it real bad. And
what round was this?
This was, I know it was February 25th, so I'm going to guess it's probably like
Dallas.
5, yeah.
No, maybe Houston.
Maybe like 5 rounds in, possibly.
Was that Houston? Houston was before. Houston's before Dallas.
This was Arlington.
Arlington.
Okay. Yeah, Triple Crown. So.
Okay. Yeah.
It was probably the biggest crash. Probably the biggest crash of my life. I would definitely have to say, because I flew through the air right to my feet, but it was brutal.
That whoops crash was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad, yes. So long story short, got checked out, did all the precautions, had an MRI, had x-rays. I didn't have anything broken. I had soft tissue damage, a lot of edema, aka swelling all over my bones, my marrow, my joints. Everything was just swollen and bruised, basically. Heel was really damaged from just like smacking it on the ground from so high in the air, but nothing was broken. So when you tell a motocross racer, or not even that, an athlete in general, right? And I know you know this.
Anyone competitive.
Yes, this is you as well. That nothing's broken, and that you're basically just dealing with pain.
Oh. So you're saying as long as I'm not a bitch, I can
exactly.
go.
You're saying I'm a sissy. Is what you're saying.
That's what
if you're not a sissy, I'll do it. So it was instant war for me. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just ice this thing in an ice bath until it freaking stops swelling, and then I'm gonna move it even when it doesn't want to be moved. I'm gonna force it into submission and make it start working again, because it was like I had a club that didn't work. Basically, that's what my ankle felt like, or my foot. So got back to walking. Got back to doing calf raises and doing all sorts of leg exercises and just all sorts of PT that I looked up on YouTube, like anything I could find to strengthen my ankles. I was just trying to bulletproof it, right? I always had pain, but I got it back to where with a ankle brace on, I could ride again. So I shoved it in a boot.
How many rounds did you miss?
I missed 4 rounds.
Okay.
So 4 rounds, but if you think about it though, I actually was off of it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of nothing. And then I rode for a week and then got back to racing. So 2 weeks of nothing, a week of like, probably just some PT stuff, getting it feeling better or whatever, strengthen it. And then a week of riding and then right back to Glendale Supercross. So it went by quick, even though I feel like it was a long time from racing, because when you're in the thick of racing every weekend, 4 races being off feels like forever, right? But overall, it was not too bad. And thank you. And I ended up, what was crazy. So I was hell-bent on racing again. And I finally get back to Glendale. And it's a Triple Crown. And I'm super nervous. My ankle is really weak. But it was okay. I start riding. I get in a flow. I shove it in an Alpine Star boot with the booty and my ankle brace and a bunch of ibuprofen. And I was taking this lidocaine cream, rubbing it all over it so I couldn't feel my ankle. And I made it work. It was a concoction, but it worked. Yeah. So that's what it took to ride. But as a racer, I didn't think that that seems odd, right? I just was like, well, this is what it's going to take. I just got to do it. Well, I ended up going through the last, 5 rounds of Supercross, let's call it, finishing the season. Race those outdoors, or that outdoor and the Brazil race. And then the straw that broke the camel's back, we can call it, was I was actually practicing 2 weeks ago at a local track. And I overjumped a jump. And as soon as I landed, my ankle collapsed and I felt this super sharp pain in my ankle. Like a pain that doesn't feel normal. It was like I damaged something. And I couldn't walk for 3 days after. So I ended my day. And I take that back. I continued to ride. I buckled my Alpine Star boot as tight as I possibly could. And I rode another session. And then I loaded up and went home. And then I couldn't walk for 3 days. But thankfully, I had an ankle boot, or a leg boot, walking boot, they call them. So it takes all the pressure off of your ankle. You can just kind of walk without really feeling a lot of pressure on it. So within 3 days, I got to where my ankle felt better. It just felt like how it did before I hurt it. So I knew that was scary, that practice crash or the going long. I'm like, something didn't feel right. Thankfully, my wife and my mechanic, Donald, my sponsor, they're much smarter than I am, and they forced me to go get it looked at. Well, I just found out 3 days ago, and I was telling you, I'll fill them in, the viewers in on it, but I actually have a fractured ankle. I have an avulsion fracture of my ankle, which is a tendon ripping a chunk of your bone off of your ankle. And then I have a torn deltoid ligament. And then I have a ATSF ligament tear or some type of damage to it. A lot of cartilage issue. And he told me that my doctor told me I already have onset arthritis in my ankle. So he said that 1,000% I need surgery, and potentially I need some metal in there for the fracture of the ankle. And I panicked. I'm thinking I'm just doing the perfect off season. I'm living the dream. I race Supercross for 6 months, and then I take off the summer. I race an international race. I race an outdoor, have fun, spend time with my wife and my dog, go fly all over the country. I'm riding in Colorado last weekend. I'm just going wherever I want. I'm just like this weekend flying to Ironman. And then it all just reality hits me when I find out that I actually have a hurt ankle and I need surgery, right? Then it's like a big fork in my plans because, as a Supercross guy in a perfect scenario, privateers don't normally get perfect scenarios, by the way. You ride in October. You start riding Supercross. You start your boot camp October 1st. November, you're in the thick of it. December, you're starting to, taper out and get ready for January for, the first week for Anaheim 1. I kind of had this mentality of like, I'm going to do it right this year. I'm going to properly prepare, get ready in October, get a base going, be ready for the first rounds. And then I find out I need surgery. So now it's like, I'm throwing a fork in my plans, but it's just the way the sport goes. So that's been a bummer. But I'm glad I found out now. Could have been worse. So, but that pretty much catches us up. I mean, that's what I've been up to. I've been doing a lot of surfing and a lot of paddle boarding, and I pretty much live in the ocean when I'm not on a dirt bike track. So I've been just, trying to enjoy life and, stay busy too, because I'm not good at being sedentary. I like to stay active. So I've been trying to stay as busy as I can.
Yeah. Damn, that's rough.
Dirt bikes, man. I'm telling you, when I tell normal people about what my injuries are, and like they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you kidding me?" The doctors, for example, like, "Oh, like you're filling out the paperwork. Have you ever had any previous injuries or previous procedures?" And I'm like, "Well, like yeah, a bunch." "What do you mean, like a bunch, like more than one?" I'm like, yeah, like, freaking 10. Like, what do you want? Like, broken bones, broken this, surgery. Like, and they look at you like, are you okay? Like, what is wrong with you? But I don't even look at it that way. It's like, I would do it all over 10 times just because it's like, I would do it, put it this way, I would hurt myself if I wasn't racing Supercross, and I'm still going to do the same things because it's what I love to do. So.
There was a quote that somebody made. I can't remember who it was. It's probably some... Honestly, I can't think of who it is. I got to look it up. But somebody had a quote about they wanted their body to be just completely blown out by the time they pass away. Like, like you're going to have a really pretty corpse or something like that. It's like there's a joke.
This is probably might be different than what you're referencing, but there's one I read the other day on the Facebook. I love Facebook. And it was like, I don't want to come into my grave in perfect condition with my knees intact and my neck not hurting and my face pretty. He's like, I want to slide into my grave, blown out knees. Every ounce of my body is just, tired and just ready to give up. And I want to feel fulfilled, and I want to live my life like that. And honestly, I'm like, kind of like respect. Like, I get that. Like, that's the dirt biker mentality. Like us crazy people, we're going to be beat up when we go into the grave.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Okay. I don't know who that is, but I like it. Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson. It says, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
I was so off, but that is exactly the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I love that. That's I wasn't even in the ballpark, but I love
sure
it.
He was a badass rider.
Oh, I'm
Hunter
sure.
Thompson is who it was.
You want to know another great quote? Another great quote. I'm actually going to butcher this one too. I'm going to have to make you look this up. There's a quote, and he's like, if you're a racer and you see an opening to pass somebody and you don't do it, you're not a racer. It's something along those lines. That totally doesn't sound cool the way I just said it, but there's a really awesome quote about that, and I love that too. I don't know why I just had to say that, but
nah, there's a good one. Yeah, there's a few like that. That's a big thing that I noticed with some of the gnarly top dudes is like I can't remember. I think one told you one time, like, you need to beat that dude to your coffee.
Yes.
Like, if he's in line at Starbucks,
what that one
if you're
told
going through TSA, you're going through TSA, you better get to the.
You don't let that guy beat you to the gate at your airport. You know what I mean? You don't let him beat you. Period. You better, if he even dreams of beating you, better wake up and apologize. One of those situations.
Yeah. But that's like, and then to this day, homeboys still like that. You know what I mean? And that to me is like, I respect the hell out of that. And that's like, I don't want to say
live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, and I don't want to say I get bummed out about it when people get bent out of shape with that. It's not that. I would just say, like, the bummer in that people don't appreciate that sometimes. Sometimes it's off-putting. Sometimes like, dude, chill.
Yeah.
But that's number one. To just be that all the time, to always have that, like that gets you far.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And however you steer it and temper it, like, you know, you got to be reasonable, you know, and stuff. But that competitive edge to like carry that on and on and on and on and on, like,
yeah,
it's badass.
It's special.
I feel myself softening up. You know, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I like kind of, and to me, I wasn't very good at controlling it. Like I was ultra competitive to where people didn't want to be around me, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to bring it back in if I wanted friends. And then like my pops, like he's still, like gosh, how old is he? He's got to be 73. Yeah, maybe just turned 73. And he still gets after it. Mm-hmm. Still doing his bike rides, still lifting weights, goes in his garden, retired, lifts weights, garden, everything, and he still has the hell are you looking at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's right this close to your face, you know. If he needs to be, and then but then also he's good time and all that, but
shirt off his back
like that, you know. And
I have a theory with that stuff. I don't know. Like I said, I'm biased because we are around motocross athletes more than anything. Like I've been around other athletes before, but I think it's a common denominator in all sports.
Yeah,
is like it's hard to be. I'm going to quote the great Ryan Hughes. I love when he says this, but the way you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're a lazy person in your professional life, you probably are a lazy person outside of your professional life. If you're someone that's intense, I mean, I'll pick on you. You can be intense when you're doing competition stuff. You can be intense when you're doing business stuff, when you're doing personal stuff, right? You're able to be that way, I think, with a lot of different aspects, but you can also be super kind. You have other sides of you as well. But I do believe like the people that you're referencing, it's about finding a way to flip it off at times that I think is the hardest. I think if you ask them, it's easy to be that athlete, to be that like competitive. That's all they know.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hard. It's almost like telling a famous racehorse to go slow. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, don't try and win this Kentucky Derby. Like, I want you to go slow and let the other horses beat you. That horse is going to die before it lets that happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's something that I think it's about harnessing that energy and knowing when to use it and when not. But again, I mean, you look at all the people that it's entertainment, all the people I love, and even other forms of sporting, boxing, MMA. I know you love UFC. You watch the UFC and it's like, I mean, there's people that have no filter, none, but it does get them far. If anything, in certain sports, that gets you further because you have no filter. You have no reining it in. You're that person all the time.
I think there's room for that. There's always room for growth in that too. Yeah. You know, I think especially nowadays, as I attempt to filter myself right now, but I think nowadays, like people like to hear that kind of stuff. What it is, I think it's maybe being different. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Yeah, not fitting in the same box that everyone else is in, because our sport can be very, very cookie cutter.
Yeah, for sure. But and the justification I would give to some of that is there's kids that go into a training compound at a young age, and the social part is not the focus of their childhood. You know, you see a lot of guys that make. I mean, to make it pro nowadays. I mean every pro that's out there, dude, they're for the most part, it takes a lot. You know, it's not just talent getting you anymore, because everybody's training. Everybody's training from early on, and it's being done well. So if everybody's doing it well, how are you going to do it better? You know, you really got to buckle down on it. Mm-hmm. You know, so you get a lot of that, and then by the time a guy turns pro, and if he's fortunate enough to be in the spotlight, then all the focus was on his body of work, right? So then it's going to be, you know, he just left it all out there, and he's coming down 190 heart rate, 200 heart rate, you know, and then he literally like fighting damn near to the death, is very dangerous what's going down, and you come down and put a microphone in his face, and then to be honest, when the guy's calm, he's probably an awkward dude anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Say all the right things, even though you couldn't do that even when you're comfortable and you're tired and exhausted and you're at your workplace.
And nobody's saying like, oh, these guys got it so bad. No, it's one social interaction that's we're talking about. We're not, I mean, they do the work on the other side, and of course, you know what I mean? We're just talking about one moment, you know, and it is just, that's the part that I see. And I think part of that is, you know, being around a lot of the guys, and you could see like, yeah, this guy, I mean, I get nervous putting a podcast out, and I love to talk, and I don't have hardly any issues talking to anybody in our paddock, right? Yeah. I get nervous putting it out there because I still care what people think. I'd like to say that I don't, but I do. Yeah. But then when I think about it, and when I think beyond the whatever I'm scaring myself into being worried about, you know, that stuff don't really bother me. Yeah. But the idea of it is what stops me, you know, or holds me up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I just I couldn't imagine going and racing your ass off and then just being a little bit dull or quiet or you know, not saying a whole lot, and then
being hated for what you are,
and then being hated,
for who you are,
and it's like, what the hell? What did I do? You know, like you're already socially awkward, and then it's 10 times worse. Like that would suck. You know, that'd be terrible. So, but on the in the fans' defense, in that perspective, it's like, I don't think fans can be brutal. Anybody can be brutal when they express an opinion without all the information, right? You're making an assumption. And so that's how it's just like shit just gets, people run away with it, right? But if the guy has an opportunity to really relax, kind of let their guard down, and you get to know them, not saying that they're going to be the most colorful character, but you get to learn, oh, it's a human being. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Carlos made a comment to me one time. He's like, dude, it's kids riding dirt bikes. At the end of the day, they're still kids. Yeah. You know, and it's like, that's true. Yeah, that's true. You know, like and it's a reality check too. Whenever you see someone get like really hurt. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you see,
think about the fallout that comes. Mentally,
dude,
just kids,
being in the pits with their parents. Mm-hmm. You know, and then they can't get to their kid. There was a bad one in Seattle. I forgot. I feel so bad. I forget this kid's name. This kid got knocked out really bad, and his mom was pretty shook up, and she couldn't get to the back where the ambulance. Or she couldn't get back to the medical rig, and I remember security they were doing their job because she didn't have a hard card or anything, but I don't think it was a red flag. It might have been. It was at Seattle, though. But this kid got jacked. And they were carting him up, put him in. Like, he went, like, straight into the ambulance. I believe. I believe. It could, whatever happened the way it did. But I remember he's getting into the ambulance, and he banged his head pretty hard. And that was the scary part. And I remember his mom was pretty shook up. And so I went and I told security what was going on, and they were like, "Oh, that's her son." I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Holy cow!" And so they gave her an escort and got her over there, you know. But just like, that's a kind of helpless feeling, you know. Yeah. Like if you got someone out there that's down and hurt, that sucks, you know. Yeah,
it's the worst. The injuries. That's probably I'd say the worst part of our sport.
100%.
But you know, you got to pay the toll to rock and roll.
Then you have the pendulum swing. You go from a terrible injury to do like Kenny.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like ultimate redemption.
Your hero status.
Yeah, dude. Like, think about what that dude's mind is capable of. Like, that's a hard man right there.
I mean, again, I know I'm biased because I'm one of the racers, but it's like I have so much respect for anyone that's on this gate because I know what I go through, and I know that like I'm a nice guy, I'd like to think, and I try and be, you know, polite, but I know that even to muster up the courage to do, like, to just line up, to even sign up to go race a national, go race a Supercross, it takes a lot of balls. It really does. Like, you have to truly have some level of courage to to put yourself out there like that, because first off, there's like the non-tangible things, like the fear of failure, right? Like just the fact of like, what if you go out there and you just straight up don't qualify? Because there's, you know, people always say, oh, like you're not doing it good in the races or whatever. It's like, well, there's a lot of people that don't even make it to the races, you know what I mean, that are really good riders, and it's scary. It's like that part is scary, and then you have like the part that we're talking about, like the actual fear, like a realistic fear of hurting yourself or whatever. It makes me have so much respect, and being a fan this summer has made me watch I've been really zoned in, with like the rest of the world, right, on Jet Lawrence and Chase Sexton, and watching their battle and watching the dynamic of Jet right now and the way he's riding, and it's like he's so confident. It's like he can't put his wheel wrong. It's amazing, and it's really wild to see, like he's oozing confidence and oozing skills and hard work, and it's an accumulation of all that stuff. But at the end of the day, though, don't even for a second think that he's not still having risk, and he's not still having all the same amount, you know, as everyone else in the gate. You know, our sport, it's almost like there's so many variables. It blows my mind when I think about guys that win championships, or like Jet is on his way to going undefeated. How? It's like I could, on a typical race weekend, if I could even remember the hundreds of things that go wrong during a practice, or going, you know, and your start, you go off the gate and you get shot by a rock, and it's like, you know, it hits a freaking nerve in your elbow, like just random stuff. I swear, like that you would never think of, and you almost forget because it's such a blip on the radar. But it's like it affects things. It can derail a moto or derail a practice. And you think of a guy that's just been perfect, just dialed in. It's amazing.
Yeah. You think of all the things that could go wrong.
Yes.
Think of how many things have to go right to win a
exactly.
to win a moto.
That's a better way to think of it.
To win a moto.
How many things have to go right to beat the best riders in the planet on a dirt bike on any given day, and to do that week in and week out, and to be
twice a day.
Yes, 19 years old, young, and crushing it, and just it's really amazing. And I just, even being there this weekend in Ironman, I was a little unsure because, you know, it's hard to watch a dirt bike race when you're not in it. I like to watch the 250 class when I'm about to be on the gate to watch, you know, to race. That's fun, but it almost hurt my feelings, you know, watching all these guys that I raced, just getting ready for the day. But I've tried to really take a different approach, and I'm trying to absorb tomorrow and just truly be a fan and just listen to the sounds and smells.
Are you going to go down and watch trackside?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to watch every practice. I'll be there. I'll be first thing.
Like in there, though.
I don't know. You getting me in there or what?
I'll see what I can do.
You know, we'll have to see if you can pull some strings for the fellow rider. Not I'm just a fan.
Hey, what was that thing you told me not too long ago?
I'll never ask you for it. I know.
I think I got you on record.
You do.
You're
I know.
inquiring.
Don't put me on blast. No, what I said is, I was like, you're like, man, you know, why don't you come to a race? I'll get you a pass. And I'm like, listen, the day that I'm calling you to come to a race or get a pass, and here I am about to call you to come and give me a pass to get in.
That's I'm just
full
saying,
circle. Never say never, guys.
This is what it's like. Hanging out with Tristan. I tell my wife this all the time. I was like, is this what it's like having kids? Like you just like you love them unconditionally. You try to guide them. You basically tell them the future, and then they just say, piss off and rub it in your face.
Wise man once said, you know, you could take a horse and you could lead their mouth to the water pail, but you can't make them drink.
You could drown a horse, but don't swim.
You could murder
can't make
a horse.
It float.
Yeah, you could murder a horse, but then you go to jail or something like that. Yeah.
Well, holy cow, man! It's getting a little bit late.
Yeah.
This is a good time. We keep going, but I think we'll end up hitting a second wind, and
I agree.
We got stuff to do.
We'll have to do a continuance of this. I think when my voice is less scratchy and less coughing going on, I think I can make this even better. But this has been fun. This is actually long overdue.
Yeah. We'll do more. We'll do more.
So.
It was funny because when you were talking about let's see, we were talking about intervals, and then you're talking about your ritual, and then I started to think about. I could just hear Ron in my head.
Oh yeah.
Just like,
listen, he's a national treasure. I mean, thanks to people like Blaine Silvera and Donnie. I mean, Derek Van de Graaf. I mean, you guys have never heard of this man, and he's a desert warrior. He's going faster than you'll ever dream of going in the middle of a desert on a bike that has 4,000 hours on it. And he's the reason why we love motocross. He's the sport. He's the backbone. Yeah. Our friends. My inspirations.
The behind the scenes. Your hero's hero.
Yes. The person that you think You'll never think could ride a motorcycle has more talent than I do.
Yeah. One of the funniest ones. So, you know how driving out to his house, all the farmland.
Yeah.
And then there's like those big ditches, but they're you can see like the dirt mound, and then a ditch, and then another dirt mound.
Yep.
Like you drive by that, and every moto person looks and like, fuck, I wonder if I could jump that. Blaine randomly just sends me this video. It was on Snapchat. It's him hitting this double. It's like when he first started racing arena cross, I want to say, and he doubled this big ditch gap, and it's probably only 80 feet, maybe. I mean,
pretty good
size double, and it's not made to like. It's not a jump.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a jump. But he sends it to me, and I just remember like. That's pretty badass. Like, that's cool. You got a friend that, like, just does that. Because I can't tell you how many times I've drove by that.
Yeah, wanted to do that.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. And you know what he says? He's all, some of us are dreamers, buddy, and some of us are doers.
Wise words.
That's him. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I like that. We'll end on a good note.
Thanks.
It's a good memory.
Thank you to everybody for listening.
Yep.
And we'll get you on the next one.